Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we got this Can-Am Defender in here and it is not charging. Battery keeps going flat. I'll give you just a quick walk around, show you what we got to work with, and we'll see if we can't figure out why it's not charging. This is a 2018 model year, 800cc V-twin. Let's stick around, we're going to dive into this thing.
Motorbike garage.
So let's check our static battery voltage, then we'll start it up and see what we got when it's running. Set that to 12 volts DC. We got 12.5. Now I'll fire it up and see what happens. $12.2. Stays around 12.2 even at higher RPM. So we're definitely not charging. Let's open the bed up. And let's check the output of the stator. So we've got our regulator rectifier right here. I'm going to unplug these 3 yellow wires. I want to check the stator AC output voltage. So I'm going to fire it up again. And let's see what we get. Set my meter to AC voltage. We're going to go to 200. Just check each leg. Drop it down to 20. Go to 2. So it's only putting out about 4 volts, 4.5 volts here, which is no good. I don't know what the specs are for the output of this stator, but I would think it needs to be at least 30 volts AC. I know like motorcycles, things of that nature, they're putting out 70 to 110 volts AC. So we gotta pop that side cover off there, get inside and have a look. I'm gonna ohm these wires out and we'll see if they're shorted to ground or shorted to each other. But regardless, we got to get in deeper. I'm going to work on getting the side cover off and getting inside to that stator. So I'll bring it back around once we get that off. So I just cut a bunch of zip ties. Got my wires free. Disconnected our crank position sensor. And now I'm just going to blast it with some air, get some of this dirt out of here. And we'll start removing those 8mm screws, I believe they are. Well, that thing is cooked. See how burnt up it is? Black, it stinks. As a comparison, here's a brand new one. Straight from VRP. Part number there if anybody needs it or wants it. Made in Taiwan. I got the gasket and I got an oil change kit here too. I believe this was $299 for the stator. The gasket was like almost 40 bucks. And we got 68 bucks for the oil change kit. So let's get this one out of there. Get it in the garbage. Just a little recap here. I had to pull the oil dipstick tube out of there, which I should probably stick a rag in there. I had already dropped the oil out of it. And when you pop this cover off, this little shaft right here came out with the cover, but you know, the gear can fall down. So just be aware of that if this is a job that you're attempting to do. You can see it's pretty gross in there. A lot of crud. I'm gonna have to clean all that up. You know, the oil filter is right there. We'll get that out of there. Get the new stator, some fresh oil. Went around, I jacked it up. You know, we're gonna grease it, check all the wheel bearings and tie rod ends and all that good stuff. I'll probably pull a wheel, check the brakes. It did run and drive. The belt didn't feel like it had any flat spots in it, but maybe we'll pull that cover off. We're gonna check the air filter, all that good stuff. Now, if you look at this right here, we've got a pretty serious electric plow set up on this thing. And I think that is really pushing the limits of what that 650 watt stator can do. He doesn't have any other major lighting or electrical accessories, but I know that plow might be more than what this can handle. We're gonna have to maybe talk about putting an auxiliary battery in here or seeing if there's a better way to run this plow setup. Because that's a lot for this little stator to try to maintain. And the other thing that can do this too is if you have a dead battery and you jump it and get it running and then just drive it around, it's really, really hard on your stator. A good battery is a must in these things. That and keeping up with your oil changes too. Food for thought. Here's another look at this thing. You can just see how burnt up this thing is. garbage. And here's our new one. I just cleaned this cover up here. Just kind of wiped it out. Scraped the old gasket off. I'm going to put a little Loctite on all my screws. I'm going to put a little Suzuki Bond 1207B just where this rubber grommet sits in this groove. Torque it to proper specification. And we've got this little metal retainer that just keeps the wire in place. Put a little goop in here. Always end up wearing this stuff. Okay, got that back in there. Got that retainer back in there. It holds the wire in place. Bolts are tight. Surface is cleaned up. That part should be ready to go back in. All right, I just stuck my cover back on there. I put the gasket on the engine first. I gooped it up in a few areas just to kind of hold it in place. When you're going to put this cover on, I didn't record it because sometimes it's a pain in the butt, but the magnet's going to want to pull it in, and you got to kind of line everything up. So that's something to just watch your fingers when you're putting this on, because it can bite you. Otherwise, I'm going to put the oil filter back in. We'll get all of our bolts in there, get it all hooked back up, get the fresh oil in there, and we'll see if she's charging. So I'll take you back around once we get to that point. We got this button back up. Wires hooked back up. So let us check now and see if we're charging. We got the fresh oil in there, new oil filter. Let's see what we get. All right, so I had the battery on charge while I was fixing it. So we're up to 13.14. So let's start it up and see what we get. So we got 14.2 at idle. Holds pretty steady, 14.3 with RPM. So that's pretty good. We are back in business. I'm gonna just make sure my battery connections are tight. I'll probably spray some protector on those terminals. And then we'll just give this thing a once over. This thing should be ready to rock and roll. So for those that are watching and are having charging issues, I guess I'll just run down how this charging system works on this machine. So as you know, we replaced the stator, but what happens is the magnet goes around that stator, creates an AC signal, which comes up our wires and into our regulator rectifier, which is right here. And this regulator rectifier takes that AC signal. And like I said, I don't know the voltage. I guess maybe we could check it and see what it's putting out. But we'll say it takes 50 volts AC and it rectifies it to 12 volts DC, which comes out here and then goes to your battery, and that's what charges for you. But otherwise, it's a pretty simple system. If you're having problems, it's either going to be your stator, your regulator rectifier, bad battery, or there could be a wiring fault somewhere, obviously. But those are the three things you want to check. But first, just check your battery, check it at the battery. You're looking for, 13.5 to 14.5 volts as it's running. Okay, well, that's it. She's back together, she's charging. Fresh oil, greased up. Gave it a good once over. So this thing is ready to go. So I appreciate you guys watching, and we will see you next time around. Thanks.